Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. This is Season 4. We're calling Curtain Call, and we are recording with WCET out of the Grand Castle Library. We want to thank Roger Lucas, who is the designer and builder of the Grand Castle, who built this Grand Castle to inspire the next generation. And we hope as the show develops that we inspire others to find their voice, to come on the show and share what they're doing in West Michigan, because we all know we live in a fabulous place. Well, I have a very special guest for you, for my first guest in Season 4. We've known each other personally for a long time. I've done his book dedication in this Grand Castle Library when it was published, and I'm happy to have him on the show to promote his radio show. So I want to welcome to the show Lieutenant Colonel Denny Gillem, who's a West Pointer, and he is the founder and host of Frontlines of Freedom radio show, which airs on Wood Radio. So thank you for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
But I want to welcome you to the show, and I want to talk about your radio show that airs on Wood Radio, and why you started it, and where would you like it to go, and how do you want it to impact people? So let's start with there.
Well, actually, you mentioned what a great place West Michigan is to live. Mm-hmm. I was in active duty in the Army, stationed in Tampa, when Mother Army told me that I was going to be transferred to Wyoming, Michigan.
You're like, where?
My question was, well, make up your mind, Wyoming or Michigan.
I was raised there, you know.
And they said, no, sir, it's a suburb of Grand Rapids. I was assigned as an Army advisor to the Michigan National Guard. I didn't want to come. I'd only been to Michigan once in my life. That was the Detroit riots in 1967.
Well, that was a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, we moved up here, our family, and we found out, one, all of Michigan is not like Detroit. Two, the West Michigan culture is awesome.
It is.
And three, we fell in love with the seasons. So after 2 years being stationed here, I retired so we could stay here and live the rest of our lives here. So therefore, yes, I share with you that West Michigan is an awesome place to live.
It's an awesome place to live, and I always tell people, I grew up in the city of Wyoming, where you thought, and it was, you know, it was a blue, I would say, as we talked back in the day, a blue collar kind of, you know, the schools and everything like that. So people coming here from Tampa, experiencing our winters, our four seasons, which I absolutely love. But I will admit, I'm getting old enough where I want to get out of Dodge by February. I'm ready to jump ship and go someplace for a month, right? I just need to get through that winter blue.
Yeah, we go back to Tampa for a week every January or February.
Is your family still there?
No.
Or you just love
Yeah.
you made friends and you like the area?
January, February, March, if we go for a week somewhere in there. Just to get, you know, I love the seasons, I don't need as much winter.
Well, it is. You get the Christmas and you get a little bit into January, and I'm done with it. You know, and so that being able to leave West Michigan during those winter months is because you have recorded your show and you have prepared for that absence.
Sure.
And let's talk about that.
Well, one of my assignments while I was stationed in Tampa was I was a Mideast War Planner for 4 years. So when I moved up here, it was just before Operation Desert Storm. So I was a little bit popular with the media. I get occasional interviews. Then I just settled down, got a job, did my thing.
What was your role in West Michigan when you moved here? What would you do?
I was an advisor to the Michigan National Guard, particularly the unit headquartered in the Wyoming Armory on 44th Street.
And that's where a little bit, we've had events there for the Sea Cadets.
Sure.
On that one, and so they were great organization. I think they're housed somewhere else, or their training goes somewhere else. But you couldn't help but drive by that thing with that tank.
Right.
And it was scary, right? Good. And sometimes you would see them do trainings and things like that. So how many years did you do that?
I did it for 2 years.
Okay.
Then I retired. I got a job working as an engineer and changed jobs a couple of times. But one of the things I did in the year 2000 was I got active in politics as far as running for office. And friends that we knew from church, Josh Breimeyer was their college-age son going to Grand Valley, working part-time at Wood Radio. And he helped me out politically a little bit. I came in second to I ran 2 times, came second
Well,
twice.
and it's a big endeavor. We know people in our circle that have run for politics.
So then he graduated, went to the Air Force, got commissioned in the Air Force, was stationed in Los Angeles as a logistician. And because that was sort of an 8-to-5 job, he got permission to moonlight, and he worked at Wood Radio through college.
Right.
He ended up producing what was then the most popular military talk radio show in the nation, the Captain Dale Dye Show, in Los Angeles. He got out of the
Wow.
Air Force, came back to Grand Rapids, went to Wood Radio and said, "You need to have a military talk radio show." And he talked them into it. And they said, "Well, who would we have host it?" And he said, "I'll get Denny Gillem to do it." And
What was your thought? Because it's not me having the show, and all of a sudden being in front of camera, and I've done podcasts and I've been on radio shows. What is your what did you think? Did you worry about what you were going to talk about every week because you have your show? Or that's my biggest worry is what are you talking about every week?
I'd never thought about being on the radio before. So, and this guy calls me up and says, "Will you host it?" Well, I've got a good friend, Dave Reaver. He's Vietnam vet like I am, and he's an evangelist. And he has a favorite saying, which is, "Let me pray about that." Amen, okay?
Let me. That's a good thought, right?
And
Okay.
when it has to do with money, that's generally the answer. And so I said yes. It took us over 6 months to figure out what we were going to do and how we were going to do it and get it set up in times. And we started the first weekend in June of 2007.
Oh goodness. Okay.
And so this is our 15th year.
Wow. Are you having a big celebration? Yeah, we'll put that on. Grand Tech Media doesn't mind doing that.
Yeah.
But
next
think
June
about
will
it.
be our 15th anniversary.
Your 15th. Okay. Wow.
And it just started moving, and there were issues. Suddenly, Wood ran out of. They had financial issues, and we had to go to another station.
Correct.
And then we had to go. Then we went to another station, and then we went back to Wood. We're still there. The normal stuff of business and life. We were started out as a 1-hour show. Now we're a 2-hour show. We started out just local. Now we're on just shy of 170 stations.
I find that just fascinating when we've known each other for a while, and then just to hear about, when you did your book dedication and things like that, and just learn more about the show, and being part of Mission Barbecue, which is coming up, the Veterans Day event we just did a year ago.
Yeah.
And then learning a lot more about how many stations that you're on. I thought it was just local. I had no idea you went to Guam and you went, throughout the nation. I thought it was more of a local veterans show.
Well, it has grown. It's still growing. And, from my perspective, it affects a little bit about what I say. I can't focus on how this thing in Grand Rapids takes care of veterans and how that thing takes care of veterans. Because if it's not of interest in Seattle, Washington, and Tampa, we can't do it.
I get that.
On the other hand, we could do things that are an example that other communities could pick up if they wanted to. So it took some time figuring out the first about 4 years we were local only, or we had a couple of affiliates, but they were
Right, you're just getting your feet in there, trying to figure this
but
all out.
once we seriously went national, I had to rethink some of the interviews that I was doing. So I'd say I'm looking for an interview on this or something like that. I'd get all kinds of help.
So you had to be a specific topic of that.
Yes.
You had to program that. Like, we're going to talk about this day, is that what you're saying? How you did yours?
But on the other hand, I rarely had anybody, if I asked them for an interview, say no. One of the funnier ones, the number 2 guy in the Navy, the Vice Chief of Naval Operations, was in West Michigan because he had a child graduating from college, I believe.
Okay.
Well, I found out he was coming, so I contacted him and asked him for an interview, and he agreed on what the Navy was going on. Well, he was an Annapolis grad, and I'm a West Point grad, and this was about this time of year. So, of course, I concluded by saying, "Beat Navy, sir." But this was during this period where Navy beat Army like 15 times in a row, and this was like in the middle of it. And he said, "Not likely, Den." And that was the end of the interview. And so therefore, I play the game when I can. But I've not had trouble for probably almost 10 years. Coast Guard Week is September.
Right.
I call the Commandant of the Coast Guard's office, and I have the Commandant himself as a guest, or the Vice Commandant, or in worst case, one of his 3-star admirals as a guest every year for like 10 years.
So let's back up. So share with people that have not heard your show, what is the mission of the show?
My mission is to recognize what military people are doing now and to talk about the news that they probably won't get on mainstream media about what the military is doing or about things that will affect the military. For example, the open southern border isn't a military thing, but it certainly affects the security of our country. So I talk about homeland security, veterans issues, foreign policy, and military issues. Basically to keep people who are concerned about the security of our country informed.
What is when we talk about the security of the country, we always think of foreign enemies. What, a lot of people are like, and they get it, so it's not like what do people think, the internal, enemies are easily accessing our country and whatever. We're not seeing some of the issues that are going to happen currently today, but as a military strategist and a West Pointer, I mean, how are you viewing that? It's like, what is it? Share with us on that one.
Well, there's two aspects of that. One aspect is rioters or people who want to destroy our nation actually physically doing that. With the one exception of some people on January 6th in Washington, D.C., all the people involved in violence are left-wingers. All the cities that were burned down, all the businesses was left-wing. So if there is a violent, hostile to our nation group, that's it. And I talk a bit about that. The other side is the way we're being attacked by foreign nations. The fact that the New York Times stopped running an negative article about China because China told them to. That suggests that there's a direct relationship, financial probably. The China's impact on our colleges particularly, but also our K-12 schools, but particularly our colleges, is a financial, but it nonetheless, they have profs who teach at the school, and they teach the party line.
Most people understand, they have some knowledge that something is going on, right?
Yes.
And we don't have to go into all the details on, because we could sit for hours to discuss that. But what I will say to you that I realized that, I guess it was during the Cuban missile, and I saw the 13 Days, that movie, and about them talking about the language that has changed in fighting a confrontation, such as what was going on. And do you notice that we are using old strategies to fight what's going on today, and we need to really move it towards, success that we have in intelligence and the smartphone and all, social media, fighting the battles that way to give the message to the American people what's going on. And we still have this tendency, I think the military still seems loose lives sink ships, things like that you hear. What are your thoughts on how things have changed?
Well, things have changed, and that doesn't mean that battleships and tanks and stuff aren't necessary,
right?
Needed. But right now, we are at war with at least Russia and China, and it's all being done electronically, the internet, hacking into things.
Right, they just hacked Facebook was just hacked yesterday, on Monday.
Well,
and
Facebook shut me down for no reason, and I don't know how to get back in 2 months ago. I have no idea why. So therefore, the fact that they're down didn't hurt me at all, but that's an issue.
They shut down your personal, or they shut down Frontlines?
No, my personal, I can go on and put anything I want to, but nobody can read what I put in. I've had dozens, hundreds of people say, why'd you stop posting on Facebook? I haven't.
Now, to me, that's very concerning because we live, being part of the military, and you give an allegiance to the Constitution.
Yes.
Correct? And so when you're on the show, when you have your guests, let's talk about some of those great guests that you've had. I mean, when you share this with people in your audience, are they surprised because they see you, what do you mean the Constitution as opposed to the president or our leaders that are in charge for the day? I don't know. Some of them, it seems like we're passing them like that.
Well, it's my opinion that the majority of the people who listen to me just want to hear my perspective on things because it's different than most other perspectives. Virtually all of the feedback I get is positive. Every once in a while I get asked a couple of questions, which is reasonable.
Right.
But they're basically of a positive nature. So therefore, I'm not really dealing with a negative response from my listeners. And I think the majority of my listeners are people what I call military or veteran or family or patriot.
They're well informed. They have a...
Well, they care about our country.
Right, I would say.
And, I don't know that active duty people listen. I mean, when I was on active duty, after I'd worked a 12 or 14-hour day, I'm not going to go listen to something about the military. But
it's like anybody else, right? I don't want to talk about it.
But their families do.
Yeah.
Mother, wife, family, kids, uncles, aunts, friends. And so therefore I say, if you want to reach military people, we'll talk about it here. Their wife will hear it, and she'll tell it.
Yeah. So we can talk about. Let's talk about your guests, so we can get into your show your book a little bit. That was the book dedication you had here. So what is the most I guess exciting or maybe the guest that you went after, you really went on your show and actually was available to do that for you?
Well, actually, the guest I have that I enjoy the most, and we just hit it off when we first met, and he's on every couple, 3 months. Jack Bergman is a retired Marine 3-star general, and he's a congressman from Michigan, northern Michigan.
Really?
And he's the highest ranking veteran to ever serve in Congress with 3 stars. There's never been a 3-star run for Congress and served in Congress. And Jack is brilliant. I mean, his insights are just amazing. And it doesn't hurt that he and I really like each other and that we can kid each other back and forth.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure you use him as, talking about, what do you think of, I'm sure like anybody else, like David's in the finance.
Yes.
He reaches out to his finance people. So that's one of your other guests. Now, talk about when it's on Saturdays, right? Is it Saturdays or is it Sunday?
Well,
Which day?
Well, we record it, it hits the satellite at about midnight Friday. And
Okay.
It plays across the nation that weekend. In Grand Rapids, it plays Sunday at 8 p.m. on Wood Radio. But it also plays on 1260 The Pledge in Holland, Zealand.
Yeah.
On Saturday afternoons, I think at 2.
Right.
So you got to go on the website, frontlinesoffreedom.com, and find out where the nearest one is to you.
Correct. And you can you can go streamline it that you can listen to it off their Streamline, right?
Yep.
And there's other ways. And most of it they're not technically going into your studio, or are they going into your studio?
I got run out of the studio when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I at that point I couldn't even spell Zoom. So one of the geeks from Wood came to my house and showed me how to set it up on my computer, and all of it's by Zoom now.
Correct.
So,
Well, the one thing about it, Zoom, we were able to have a lot of meetings and opportunity through Zoom. But has that opened up opportunity for you to reach out to people on that with the Zoom technology to have on your show?
Well, let's just say it's easier to get interviews, because before I had the studio Wednesday afternoons from noon to 3. So if I wanted to interview you, you had to be free between noon to 3 on Wednesday. Now you want to call at midnight, all I got to do is wander out to the living room to turn on the computer, and it's audio only, so therefore I do not have to be dressed for the visual part.
Isn't that a nice thing? I'm sitting here in front of camera deciding what to wear today, and I'm going, yeah, that one thing about it that has freed us up. My show expanded a lot during COVID. I call myself a cheerleader for Michigan and beyond, and I call it Castle Home now. That's my little tagline. I was able to reach out to people in California, in Florida,
Yes.
New York City, and interview them. It was quite exciting. What interviews? Who would you like to interview, and who's out there that you would say, hey, be on my show?
Wow.
Well,
No.
besides the joint.
Right, yeah, I'd love to have the Joint Chiefs of Staff members, because I want them all relieved. But I've got pretty much General Jerry Boykin, who commanded the Special Operations Forces for a long time. Rick Grinnell, who was the former Director of National Intelligence, he's a regular.
Wow.
Alan West, who right now he's the head of the Republican Party in Texas, but he's running for governor of Texas. He's a retired lieutenant colonel, a combat vet like me.
Are you getting people that would like to be on your show to share their aspirations for running for office, and so that they can reach out to the military families and stuff like that, which have a voice on the outcome of some of that?
I try to, not constantly, but
Right.
I'm looking for military veterans who are running for office to talk to us about their military service, but why are you running? Because the message is, I'm not done serving. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Just got out of the military, that oath didn't end.
Well, even as a concerned U.S. citizen.
Yes.
Right? I mean, are you concerned, like you said, and I'm sure you are like I am, of people that, have experience and like you do, bringing it to what's happening in our current activities, so what's going on in the world today, and being shut down. That, wait a minute.
Yes.
Why did we need people that have the wisdom and stuff like that? Maybe it isn't going to always play the way we all visualize it in our mind because of a human factor, right?
Yes.
Everybody has a plan until the human factor comes in.
One of the things I did for 15 years was teach American government at Grand
Well, how
Rapids
exciting
Community
is that?
And one of the things that I knew, but what I taught there, and which I mentioned periodically on my show, is that most Americans who vote stupid. That means I always vote Republican, I always vote Democrat, I always vote pro this, I always vote pro that. Somebody gives me a list and I vote it. I don't even know what the offices are, I don't know who the people are, I don't hold them accountable, I just vote. That's stupid. You need to know who they are, you need to hold them accountable. How can you expect them to do anything if you're not checking up on them every once in a while?
But will they ever meet all of our expectations?
No, of
Think
course
about
not.
it. What is I'm looking at what's the outcome of some of your decisions you've made. But nobody's ever going to meet every. That's why I struggle with people like, well, they like some person and are like, but I don't like the way they do this. I'm like, when did we? Not even our family can meet our expectations.
Next month, my wife and I will have our 55th anniversary. I love her dearly. She has not met all my, nor have I met all hers.
You heard that here first. Well, you know what I'm saying.
That's the point. If somebody meets 70% of my expectations, that's a good person to work with.
Right.
If they get up to 80% or so, wow. I mean, am I going to be upset with you because I like chocolate and you like vanilla?
Right.
But
I think we should follow their policies, and when they're implemented, what are been the outcome?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about real quick. Brian's giving me the call here. Let's talk about this book.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's the title of your show. And when people buy this book, pick up this book, learn more about this. What do you have in here, real quickly?
Okay, first of all, the name of the show is Frontlines of Freedom. The name of the book is Frontlines of Freedom. And if you go on Amazon, the name of the author is Frontlines of Freedom.
Isn't that interesting?
And you can also go on my website, frontlinesoffreedom.com, and buy it there.
Okay.
But it's a call to action book. There's about 20 authors, most of them, all but one is military. And it's a call to action book. Let's get our country back on track. Let's get back to patriotism. Let's get back to serving, not being served. Let's get back to being proud of our country. Let's get back to that. Let's put down the nonsense and get back to being proud Americans. So that's what Frontlines of Freedom
I think
is
it's
about.
just normal. I want to be patriotic. I want to do the right thing. All of us do. We want great communities, families, be able to thrive, good schools. I mean, if you really sit down with people, most of them want. It's really weird that I walk in and people have a different I guess, a hallmark life they want. I'm like going, but I feel like I've been blessed. I've had a charmed life. I've given my kids a great life. Was I perfect? Probably not. Let's not record them, but interview them. But you know what I'm saying? We live in the, if you look at it, we live, you know, to me, I think I lived in the best place in the world. I haven't traveled abroad like you have, and you've been and traveled a lot, but I don't want to give it up.
Amen. I love what I've got.
Right.
And yes, I recognize, I'm fond of saying I'm not perfect. I made a mistake once. I think it was in 1963, but that's a joke.
I want people to speak.
My wife will assure you I've made more than one mistake.
But I do believe in freedom of speech. I do believe in our liberties.
Yes.
I do believe, even if I disagree with you, I want you to have the right to say it.
But the important thing is that if you and I disagree on something, we don't talk at each other, we talk with each other. While you're talking, I'm actually listening to you and learning how you think and why you think that, and you're listening to me while I'm talking. We at least will understand each other better, and you might move an inch towards me and I might move an inch towards you. That's the only future our country has. If we can't do that, talk to people you disagree with and listen to them, and they will listen to you when you talk. That's the future of our country. We don't have a future if we can't do that.
All right, there's so much we could sit and talk about, Denny. I had all of these questions in my mind. I was going to talk about all the guests that we both know. Since we've already done a great interview here, and we'll have you back and to further go in.
So if you know somebody that might be, Denny at frontlinesoffreedom.com is how to reach me. Frontlinesoffreedom.com is the website. You can reach me lots of different ways. The show's always, every show after it plays is available as a podcast on the website. There's lots of ways to grab us and reach us, but I like to be communicated with. I like to hear what people think. I like to know what's going on.
You know what? As an American, right, and you're talking to me, give us hope. Give us something to hope for that in the future of what we're seeing currently around the world, in our country, whatever. Because we can get bogged down if we listen to it all. We're like, what can I do as an American citizen? And give us something.
What can you do? Get active. Know who your elected official, there's probably 70 people you can vote. You can't touch all of them.
Right.
But you can pick 2 or 3, your congressman or your state representative, your school board member.
That's what I heard too.
Get active with 3 or 4 of your political people that you elected because they're your representative. How can they represent you if they don't know what you want? Do that. But secondly, don't pay attention to haters. The people that talk venomous, just don't pay attention to them. Talk to people that will listen and interact. And 3, if you think we're really bad, look at the southern border. Is the issue so many people are trying to leave America across the southern border?
Yeah, really.
No. They all want to come here.
Right.
So are we hurting? Yes. Do we have a lot of issues? Yes. But are we still the best place in the world to live? Yes.
I have to share this with you, Lieutenant Colonel. It's that it's kind of having a bunch of guests show up at your house when you're not prepared for their company, and having them stay and having to build the facilities, having them use your bathroom. What would your home look like?
And
you know?
paying for it.
Yeah, and you're paying for it all and saying this isn't right. We need to have a process. We want people to come here. So keeping it on a happy note at the end, we want to thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Denny Gillem, for being here. He is the host of Frontlines of Freedom. It's aired on Wood Radio. Get his book. You'll learn more about him. And his name isn't on here. I find that kind of cute. But you learn about all the stories and what we can do to pretty much remember those who have gone before us. Once again, this is Pamela Keim from Grand Tap Media Business TV. This is my first show out of season 4, calling Curtain Call. We are inside the Grand Castle. All right, so I want to thank you, Denny Gillem, for being here. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, young lady.
All right, take care, and we'll catch you next time on Grand Tap Media Business TV.